Joining me now, Joe Franklin, our netball correspondent for the Eastern Eyre Netball Association and the Great Flinders Netball Association. Joe, thank you for joining us again.
No worries.
And it was a big weekend across the two associations. So we'll start off with the Eastern Eyre, where Central Eyre United had a big win last week, but in round two it was a different story, going down 52-34 against Kimber, who were playing in their first game of the season.
Yeah, they were, and they were really excited and really looking forward to it too. And unfortunately for Kimber, in the first quarter, just a few minutes into the first quarter, actually, Jess Clements, who was just coming back from having had a baby, actually, has done a knee injury. So that was a little bit disappointing for them. And we're hoping, we're sending all our best wishes to Jess and hoping that it's not too serious. And that she can get back out on the court again this season, hopefully. But that actually meant that Central Eyre United actually got off to not a bad first quarter. It was 10-all at quarter time, so it really looked like it was going to be a really interesting game. Young Letitia Stootley replaced Jess, however, in goals with Amber Schilling, and she actually settled down really well quite quickly. So that was really good for the Kimber side. Look, Zoe Phelps and Regan O'Brien were really strong and very tough, as you would imagine, with those two. In defence, Kimber's centre court certainly were really strong all day, both attacking, and Tony Scott, their coach, was really impressed with their defensive efforts as well. The two tall, we talked last week about how tall the Central Eyre United goalies are, but they're also very young, and eventually the experience of the Kimber defenders did get a little bit the better of them. And best for Central Eyre United was Regan O'Brien in goalkeeper, and for Kimber Districts it was CJ Kemp through the centre court. So, I didn't think it would be quite that much in the end, but in the end, Kimber certainly way too good.
Very good. Good win by Kimber, but very sad news about that knee injury. Obviously, must have been a bittersweet win in the end with that pending. So moving on to our next game, Eastern Rangers with a big win over Ports, 56-24.
Yeah, it was. As I said, Ports are working really, really hard, and hopefully, with a few games under their belt, they'll certainly get it together and be being quite competitive. Rangers were just too strong all over the court. They've also got a fair bit of height that people have got to contest with as well. Their coach was much happier with their goalers this week. They were much more accurate what they were in the Anzac Day game. Young Courtney Grigg did a good job early in goals for Ports, and look, their girls kept trying all game. There's no doubt about that, but in the end, Eastern Rangers were just too strong.
And Cal had the bye. They'll be back in action next week, playing against Ports. Both teams yet to register a win yet, so you'd imagine that one should be a pretty hard-fought contest.
I actually think this will be an even contest between Ports and Cal. Look, as I've said, Ports are working really hard, and it would be really nice for them to get a win on the scoreboard. But having said that, Cal are working just as hard. They've spent a lot of time in the off-season working as a club to make sure that they can build on their volunteer basis and that they're building on their player numbers, and they're trying really hard to develop the skill level of all of their players as well. So both clubs working so hard to make sure that they can become sustainable as clubs. And in all honesty, if Cal were going to get a win, it would be this week, and they would be certainly hoping for that. Having said that, they won't want to take Ports too lightly, because Ports will be pushing for exactly the same thing to get their first win on the board as well. But I guess being an ex-Cowgirl, Dan, I will be going for Cal.
Fair enough. You've got to wear your heart on your sleeve sometimes, but that should be a good game, that one. And then in our other game next week, top of the table clash, two form sides of the competition through two rounds. Eastern Rangers taking on Kimber.
Yeah, and that game is at Rudall. Look, this will be a really interesting game. Both sides are putting together new look sides. Both sides have got new coaches, so they will be pitting up against each other, and both are extremely competitive people. Carmen Hampel and Tony Scott, both very competitive, and both will be out for the win. I think that there's going to be some really interesting matchups through the centre court here, because I can see that Eastern Rangers centre court is probably their strength at the moment, just as Kimber's is. CJ Kemp and Jordy McCullum running through there with Saran Shipard is a very good, strong, quick attacking line, but at the same time they're also very good when the transitional play happens and they've got to become defensive. They're also very good with that, as are Eastern Rangers. I think it will be won or lost in that area, and just exactly who can capitalise on the number of turnovers, which goalies can settle early. It sounds almost as if the Kimber, Letitia Stokely actually settled down pretty quickly with Amber Schilling. So if they continue that, then I think that they're every chance to beat the Rangers.
Good stuff. And over to the great Flinders Netball Association, where they've just played round 3. Opening up the round, we had the Ramblers getting a win over Cummins Kapini 57-41.
Yeah, they would be very, very happy with that, winning that game. There's no doubt about that. The rival round, they certainly building Ramblers. Cougars still trying to put together their combinations. Jack's still working on that, but Ramblers are very happy with that win. And I did actually say last week that if they were going to get a win against Cougars, it would be in that game because as I said, Cougars still were developing their combinations, and Ramblers have just been able to settle a little bit over the last couple of weeks. Michaela Richardson, another good game in there, and their defenders are starting to put it together as a pretty good defensive unit. So yeah, well done to Ramblers on that win.
So the Cougars still looking for their first win. The Ramblers sitting at 2 wins and 1 loss. In our next game, it was Tumby Bay getting a convincing win over United Yolana 53-31.
Yeah, however, at half-time, there's only 6 goals in it. So United Yolana certainly had taken it right up to Tumby Bay. However, at half-time, Tumby Bay brought on Ilka Stone and were able to push away with the game. Ilka certainly settles down the goal circle and is an extremely accurate goaler and rewarded all of the turnovers that Tumby were able to take, and certainly made a difference there. And in the end, we're able to come out with over a 20-goal win there. So obviously the United Yolana girls still have a little bit of work to do. They're still very, very young. But I'm sure that they will continue to work on that. But to score 31 goals against the Tumby Bay defence unit is a really good effort by those young girls in goals. So well done to them. But Tumby go along their winning way.
So a strong first half from United Yolana. They're still searching for their first win. Tumby Bay undefeated on top of the ladder. And in our last game from the round, Elliston District 66 defeated Lock 53.
Yeah, they did. This was the game that I said was probably going to be the game of the round, and I think it actually probably did end up being that. The scoreline not necessarily indicating that, but there was certainly some good, strong play by both sides. Elliston Districts, in the end, their defence unit, I talk about it week in and week out. It is a very tough man-on-man, player-on-player defence unit that just never gives up, and they just wear you down in the end. So they certainly came out with a good win there. They are still working on their goaler combination, but Kate was pretty happy with what she put out there on Saturday. And look, Lockville can continue to build. There's no question about that. I still think that they will be the team to watch out for as the season goes on. But Elliston, another very handy win.
And Eyre United had the bye in round 3. They'll be back in action in round 4 against Lock, who are both sitting 1-1 after 3 rounds with pretty neutral percentages. So this one should be a tight game and should give a good indication of how the girls will go for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think it will. I think that in the end, Lock are probably just a little bit more settled, got a little bit more height, a little bit more strength than Eyre United. Eyre United are putting together a whole new look side. Great that they've been able to get a win, but I would think that Lock will be too strong on Saturday.
And United Yolana still searching for their first win. They'll be taking on Elliston Districts, who are sitting at 2 wins from 2 games. So how do you see that one going? Can United Yolana steal a win in this one?
I don't think so, Dan. I wish them luck, but I really don't think so. I think they've still got a fair bit of work to do before they'll be able to take it up to Elliston. Elliston have just got a nice lot of experience with a couple of young ones in there that just helps balance the whole court out, and they work really hard for each other, and there's no doubt about the fact that they are full on for whole 4 quarters. Jelena, as I said, some very young players in that side, and in the end, over 4 quarters, when you're up against the strength of Elliston, it really does wear you down a little bit like the week before against Tumby. Experience does tell in the end, and the only way they're going to get that is to keep on having a crack at it, and I'm sure that's what they'll do, but Elliston will be too strong.
And Ramblers taking on Tumby in our last game of the round. Do you think Tumby will stay undefeated after this one?
Well, I reckon this is going to be really, really interesting. I think this will be the match of the round. And look, Tumby will certainly be looking for that, and Ramblers will certainly be looking to continue their winning streak and just show that they are coming back as a force this year. They weren't used last year. Last year they didn't win a lot of games, and they're not really used to that. So they've worked really, really hard to make sure that they get back towards the top of the ladder. And look, this will have some really interesting matchups as well. I think Michaela Richardson and Abby with Summer Cave back there for Tumby in defence will be a really interesting matchup there, I just think that Tumby this might be a little bit more settled. I think that Ilka is just a fantastic goalie, and she has the ability to turn a game around, and that's, I think, in the end what she probably will do.
Cummins Kapini with the bye in round 4. Joe, thank you very much for joining me. As always, you've brought plenty of knowledge around both the leagues to our listeners. Enjoy the netball this weekend.
No worries, thanks, Dan. We'll catch you later on.